Hey kids, how's it going? It's Grandpa. Today we're going to have a scary episode and we're going over the top 10 scariest films ever. There's no question about it, in my opinion. But also, before I get started, anyone who knows me knows I love horror. And one of the shows I like to go to is the biggest horror convention in Minnesota, which is called Crypticon. And so I'll be the MC this year at that. And because of Crypticon, I got to meet some of the people on here and take part in some of the events. So let's get right to this. Before I go on to my list of top 10, I wanted to talk about ones that should be on the list, but just kind of, I couldn't find where they fit. And that would be Event Horizon, Blair Witch Project, It, Jaws, Night of the Living Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Return of the Living Dead. So those are the ones that didn't quite make it, although they're awesome. And Blair Witch started the found footage theme of bringing realism to movies and horror. And so the second movie we're going to talk about on here, I'll cover sort of that as well. So the 10 movie came out in 1979, and it starred Sigourney Weaver and Tom Skerritt, and it's called Alien. And it's a really haunted house, but also mixed with sci-fi because it takes place in space. And it has a similar problem that Jaws did, where like they weren't sure about the character, like they weren't sure about the shark. It didn't work that well in Jaws, and the alien as well. So they used it sporadically, which actually made it even scarier. And James Cameron, Mr. Titanic, did this one. And then in 2014, number 9 is The Taking of Deborah Morgan, which is Adam Robitel and Brent Singer wrote it. And this is about a girl who calls a film crew to document her mother's descension into Alzheimer's. But it actually ends up being even scarier. And does she have Alzheimer's or does she have something else? So it's pretty freaky. And number 8, we're going with Hellraiser. I got to meet Doug Bradley and hang out with him. And this is his signature and one of my favorite pieces in my house. And they had the Cenobites, and Clive Barker directed it, and it was based off a book called The Hellbound Heart. And Clive Barker was really inspired by the Marquis de Sade, and he did tons of research to get these Cenobites right. And there was actually going to be a movie, which is the Hellraiser, the Cenobites, Pinhead against Halloween and Michael Myers. So Clive Barker even agreed to write a script. It got really close, but I'm kind of glad that they didn't happen. Next one, number 7, is Nightmare on Elm Street, and that came out in 1984, and Wes Craven did this movie. Robert Englund and Heather Langenkamp, and I got to meet Heather Langenkamp, and she even signed this here, along with a couple of the people from Dream Warriors. This was Kincaid and Taryn also signed that. And it was great. I got to hang out with them, and I even got to drive Heather Langenkamp around. So that was pretty neat. And then, this is really different, but The Haunted. It was a TV show, and in the likes of like The Conjuring. And this is the first appearance we'll see of Ed and Lorraine Warren. So this is realistic, slow burn, and suburbia horror. So not the big mansions like people are used to. And it was about the Smurl family, and they had this problem from 1974 to 1989, even though this film came out in 1991. Then number 5, we're going with Poltergeist. Tobe Hooper and Steven Spielberg directed it, although they say Steven Spielberg really directed it because he was also doing E.T. at the time. And a lot of the cast from E.T. and Poltergeist hung out. There's pictures of them all hanging out. And Drew Barrymore even tried out for the role of the girl in Poltergeist, and that came out in 1991. Number 4, we're going with The Shining, and that is Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. And Jack Nicholson says he's never seen acting this good as Shelley Duvall. Is the best he's ever worked with as far as her role and her acting. And she was even like put down, and because Stanley Kubrick wanted her to feel hopeless, and so she was even treated like really poorly on the set, and she cried so much to make this masterpiece, even though Stephen King said he didn't really like it as much. It was just amazing. And they were originally going to have Robin Williams play Jack in the movie, which is something a lot of people don't know. Number 3, we're going on to Sinister, directed by Scott Dickerson. and written by Robert Cargill. And Robert Cargill comes to Convergence a lot, and I've met him a couple times. And he was inspired to do this movie from The Ring, because it has to do with film and conveying monsters in film. And a lot of this took place on 8mm, and it was in 2012 that this was done. Psycho came out in 1960, and that's by Alfred Hitchcock, and that would be our number 2 scariest film. And it was based on Ed Gein, and Paramount really didn't have any faith in this, and it was done in black and white, and the shower scene took 7 days. It is crazy. And then we're going with, in 1973, the king of them all, The Exorcist. And that had Linda Blair, and she actually came to CryptoCon the year before, and we all got to meet her. And it actually could be considered a Christmas movie because it came out in December 26th. But people believe this movie is cursed. It's so scary. 9 people died related to the film in real life. They were actually going to have Brando and Jack Nicholson in it in parts, but they decided not to. They went with a whole group of unknown people to make it more realistic. It won 2 Academy Awards and was the first horror movie ever to be thought about by the Oscars. And it was the first... Well, not the first, but a lot of people started to take horror really seriously and put its stamp. I mean, people were freaking out in the theaters, throwing up, and it was actually based on a real thing. It was based on a book that was written in 1971 about a boy in 1940 who was possessed, so they changed the sexes of it. So that is it. Went a little longer than 5 minutes, but please subscribe, like, and comments if you agree or disagree with some of it. So have a great day. Take care. I love you guys. Bye.